Okay, Mr. Abuxia, how are you?
Good, and yourself?
Good, thank you. Do you have Mr. Louis Mora with you, or is he?
He's
Okay,
by Zoom, Your Honor, by phone, I
okay.
believe.
Mr. Mora, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you in Sand Lake?
No, ma'am. I'm in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, you're in Texas now. Is that where
Yes.
you're living
Well, that's where I'm moving to. I'm
with your
in
job?
I'm in a veterans rehabilitation program right now called Villa Serena.
Okay. How's it going?
I'll be doing it a couple more days, then I'm hopefully move into a sober living. I got two different places, either the
Yeah,
Oxford house. Yes, ma'am.
okay. Well, you know the case that we have is the case that goes all the way back to February, this past February, February 12, already 8 months ago, when you got arrested when you were in the Algoma Township area by 131 and 14 Mile Road.
Yes,
What,
ma'am.
what I wanted to talk to you about today is your attorney, Mr. Abuxia, has worked out an agreement with the prosecutor that if they reduce the charge to operating while intoxicated,
Yes.
and you pled to that, then they would drop the other charge of the 6-month misdemeanor called operating with a high BAC.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
operating while intoxicated is a misdemeanor. It's up to 93 days in jail, up to $500 fine. You can, Mr. Mora, plead guilty or not guilty, have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, have an attorney represent you. If you couldn't afford an attorney, the court could appoint one for you. Then you'd have to pay the expense of a court-appointed attorney. Obviously, Mr. Abuxia is here as your attorney appointed through the public defender's office, and he's quite capable of representing you. But in the end, you have to make your own decision. If you wanted to have a trial, you could bring in witnesses, cross-examine witnesses, take the stand yourself, be a witness if you wanted to. If you chose not to, your silence cannot be held against you. You have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Can you think of any questions that you have so far, Mr. Mora?
Well, I would just like to ask Mr. Malud, you know,
Yep.
what what my options would be. I mean, we talked about them, and I think we agreed to guilty, right? To
Yes, sir.
plead.
Those were the discussions that we had, sir. Yes, correct.
Yeah, that the OWI, is that what they call it?
Yeah, the OWI, that's the lesser charge.
Right, that's the one I
Okay.
think we were agreeing on.
All right. So if you make that decision, Mr. Mora, it has to be your decision. There's no trial. There's no witnesses that come in. We don't take testimony on the case. And then we just move forward with the penalty phase.
Yes,
So if we
ma'am.
go back in time to February 12, I'm talking 8 months ago, to the lesser charge called operating while intoxicated, OWI, how do you want to plead to that incident that happened at US 131 and 14 Mile Road? Mr. Mora?
Guilty, ma'am.
And are you making the decision yourself, Mr. Mora? Like nobody's making you do it, correct?
No, no, ma'am. This is a discussion we had with my attorney and the prosecuting attorney.
Right? But when you make the decision final today, you're saying guilty because when you look back on this and you remember bits and pieces of it, you can honestly tell yourself you never should have been driving. True?
Correct.
So where were you going when you were at US 131 and 14 Mile Road? What was your destination?
I was going to Sand Lake from Grand Rapids.
To go back to the South Larissa Court address where you were staying then?
Yes, correct.
And where were you coming from in Grand Rapids? Where had you been?
I've been over my sister's house.
When you were at your sister's home, had you been drinking alcohol?
Yes, I started drinking there. I started.
And when you were driving that vehicle back to Sand Lake, Was it a vehicle you were familiar with?
Yes, it was my vehicle. I was just not familiar with the area. I
Okay,
got lost in that area. And
but you didn't have anybody with you in the vehicle. It was you by yourself,
yes,
and it was your car.
yes.
Were you in a car accident, or did the police pull you over?
They pulled me over, I believe.
When you were pulled over as a traffic stop and they talked to you, were you able to provide your documentation that was needed at the time, like your driver's license,
Yes,
registration?
yes, yes,
And
ma'am.
then did the police ask you questions about whether you'd had a few things to drink?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were honest about telling them that you'd had some to drink, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am.
And they asked you to do some tests on the side of the road?
I'm not
Did they
sure.
ask you to take a breathalyzer? Do you remember taking a breathalyzer, blowing into a machine?
Um,
Sketchy? Don't
yeah,
remember?
I can't remember if they actually
They
did
said
either one.
the preliminary breath test results on the scene where they do this handheld thing, they said you blew into it and it showed a .201. When you were in custody and you were talking to them, you admitted driving, you admitted that you were drinking less than about a half a fifth of brandy. And the brandy was actually still in your vehicle.
Yes,
They
ma'am.
said you were driving after getting your taxes done at Walmart. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, yeah, I did stop by Walmart and do my taxes.
Okay. And they said when you went down to the jail and did a breathalyzer, it was a .18 and a .17. So, Mr. Mora, you
Yes.
agree now that that day you never should have been driving, true?
Yes, ma'am.
That you had too much alcohol in your system and that it wasn't safe, true?
Oh, yes, true.
And you're pleading guilty by your own decision to the lesser charge, which admits that you were driving the vehicle when you had alcohol in your system, correct?
Correct.
And the levels they said were way over the legal limit. Do you understand that now?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have family still here in the Sand Lake area or Grand Rapids?
Yes,
Your
ma'am. I
sister?
have family that live in Grand Rapids and in the Sand Lake area.
Okay. What about any kids that you have yourself? Do you have kids?
Yeah, they're all grown adult children.
Adult
Or
children?
they're adults. I mean, they're all adults.
So I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Try to imagine if you would have been killed in a car accident, Mr. Mora.
Yes, ma'am.
How are they all supposed to handle that? They love you, you're their dad. To be honest with you, it can't be easy for them to know you're in a rehab place right now. They're probably glad you're getting rehab, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
They want you to be successful with it.
Correct.
Are you able to talk to your family at all when you're in rehab, or are you restricted?
Well, we're restricted to visits, but they can come by and drop stuff off, and I can talk to them on the phone.
Yeah. Well, all they want is for you to get better,
Yes, ma'am.
to be able to handle your alcohol addiction so you don't kill yourself or somebody else.
Yes, ma'am. That's why I chose this Villa Serena, because I knew from history and my experience in the past that they were an excellent facility, and they took me in right away and established a medical team and a,
You're lucky that you could be there.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Very fortunate.
I'll ask you, Mr. Abuxia, whether you believe the court has complied with the court rule in terms of the taking of the plea.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Let's see if we can get some kind of an assessment from the place he's at right now. They should be able to provide us some kind of a document. You may have to give, go
I
ahead.
believe I believe I forwarded to the court an assessment from the VA.
Okay.
It would have been dated on June 3rd, 2020.
All right, that's fine. We'll take it. Tell me if there's anything else you can think of that you want to say at all, Mr. Abuxia.
I just want to say first and foremost that Mr. Moore has always been very courteous and available whenever we needed to talk and things of that nature. I'll also say that one of the reasons he moved down to Texas is because he realized that he had an issue, what the issue was, and figured out that the best way to take care of that issue was to take himself out of the scene in Grand Rapids, move into his daughter's house temporarily, and then use that as a means to get into Villa Serena. He has been there for, is it just about a month, Mr. Moore, or longer?
Yeah. Yes, sir. It was a 45 days. I've got 2 days left. And then yes, sir.
I apologize, Mr. Moore. And that came as a recommendation, not only through the VA, but as he said, he had known about the good work that they had done by hearing about that. So to speak of what Mr. Moore is doing, he's certainly pinpointed what the issue is and doing his best to try and get that help that he needs. And, that includes the inpatient intensive program that he's in right now. He's also been given info on a veterans crisis line from the VA. He's been diagnosed with severe alcohol use disorder and depressive disorders, and I know that he's working on both of those issues right now. He's met the goals for the inpatient care and was stable when he was discharged initially to his daughter's house, and now he's in Villa Serena on the substance rehab side of it. He has doctors follow-ups scheduled and is working with a mental health PCP in psychology.
Okay. Mr. Mora, can you think of anything else that you might want to say? Anything that you're thinking about?
Yes. I understand the severity of my consequences, and I really don't want to do this anymore. It's just this. I got PTSD. I got a variety of different diagnoses from the doctors, including PTSD, severe depressive disorder, and I'm just trying to do the best I can to get myself back, back.
That's all anybody wants. That's all anybody wants is to get you stable.
You're right. And that's what I'm working
on.
on.
And to stay stable. Yeah.
Right.
What are your intentions once you get out of Villa Serena?
I'm going to either the Oxford House, which is a sober living program, and or through Endeavors, which also helps me with living arrangements and.
But that's all right there in San Antonio?
Yes.
Okay. So your intentions are to stay in Texas for the long haul?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. All right, well, I don't give you any more jail time to serve, but on our case from February 12th, it's a 93-day suspended jail sentence, 4 days credit for time you did, 89 days suspended, 1 year of probation with us. We're just going to be in contact with you in San Antonio and see what programs you're doing with the help of the VA. No alcohol whatsoever. That's the order of this court. No illegal drugs. No misuse of any prescription medication. No marijuana. Counseling as you're continuing to do with your outpatient through the sober living house or your programs that you'll have as outpatient therapy. It's the Secretary of State in Michigan will be taking your license away. They'll suspend it. You'll have to set up a payment plan on everything you're going to owe on this case. It's $1,465 altogether. $730 on the fine, $360 on the probation. That's $30 a month times 12 months. $75 crime victims' right fee, $100 back to the Michigan State Police for their arrest and processing fees, and $200 for your court-appointed attorney. brings the total to $1,465. You had cash that was posted on the bond when you got arrested. That will be applied. Then they'll set up a payment plan for the rest of it.
Okay.
So much each month, or what you can work with.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions that you have for me, Mr. Mora?
Yes, I'm just curious about this payment plan because I'm 80% disabled right now, and
Right, right.
that's the only thing I'm getting right now.
We're just gonna have to work with you
Yes.
with what money you have coming in and what you can afford to pay towards this, because the fines are gonna have to be paid eventually, but we can work with you on it.
Well, thank you.
All right. All right, that's it for right now. I appreciate you hooking up by Zoom, Mr. Mora. The probation department's gonna get in contact with you. Are we using your daughter's address in San Antonio? Like, would we be able to send you mail?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
What is that address?
Right now it's 111, it's 111 Dartmoor Street,
DAR,
Dartmoor.
okay. Is it actually San Antonio?
Is in San Antonio, yes.
Okay. And what's that zip, do you know?
Well, it's 111 Dartmoor Street, San Antonio, Texas, 78227.
And is there any kind of like an apartment number, or does it just go to 111 Dartmoor?
Yes, that's a house.
Okay, that's fine. So look for getting the mail and we'll be in contact with you, okay?
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mora. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Good luck, Mr.
All
Mora.
right.
All right, thank you, Mr. Malone.
Yep, no problem.
Should I sign off?
Yes,
Yep,
sir, you
you
can
sure
sign
can.
off now.
Oh, okay.
Is it Manuel de Jesus?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Manuel de Jesus, I'm Judge Sara Smolenski. I've got you in front of me for a case that you got arrested on July 1 this year. It's now almost 4 months ago. Not quite, but almost 4 months ago. Crystal Downs, Gaines Township, operating while intoxicated, refusal of a preliminary breath test. Mr. Abuxia is here from the Public Defender's Office. He's had a chance to talk to you a little bit about this case. He got the prosecutor to reduce it to operating while visibly impaired. They dismissed the other charges. If you pled to OWVI as a misdemeanor, the other charges would be dismissed entirely. OWVI is a misdemeanor, up to 93 days in jail, up to $300 fine. Court costs can be on top of that, and it does get to be expensive. 4 points on your license if you pled guilty or were convicted, Mr. De Jesus. You'd have the right to have a trial where you could bring in witnesses, cross-examine witnesses, take the stand yourself, be a witness if you wanted to. If you chose not to, your silence cannot be held against you. You have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So far, can you think of any questions that you have?
No, ma'am.
Currently, right now, like, are you on probation or parole anywhere? Do you have cases in any other courts that you're dealing
No,
with?
ma'am. Not at
Just
all.
ours. Just ours.
Yes.
All right. So if there was something you didn't agree with or something you wanted to appeal, you'd have the right to have 3 weeks to appeal to the higher court after being sentenced. And the higher court is called circuit court. So the decision that you make today, Mr. De Jesus, is whether you want to say I'm guilty or I'm not guilty of the lesser charge called operating while visibly impaired. Is that pretty much the understanding that you had, Mr. Abuxia, as to the plea agreement?
Yes, Your Honor, plead guilty to operating while visibly impaired, dismiss the balance.
All right. So going back in time, Mr. De Jesus, July 1, not quite, but almost 4 months ago, how do you want to plead to that lesser charge called operating while visibly impaired?
Guilty, ma'am.
Were you driving? that
Yes,
day?
ma'am.
Was it a
Yes,
2017 Chevy?
yes, ma'am.
Is it a
No, not a
vehicle you're from?
Chevy. It wasn't a
What
Chevy.
is it?
It was an
Uh,
Infinity truck.
an Infinity? Is that
Yes,
like an SUV?
yes.
Okay. Were you familiar with it? Do you own it or is it somebody else's?
It was somebody else's, man.
But they let you use it. They knew you had it.
Yes.
Okay. Where were you going?
I was picking up my fiance, Your Honor.
It was like 6 in the morning, right?
No, it was earlier. It
What were
was
you
after
picking her
midnight.
up for?
It was after midnight.
Yeah, what are you picking her up for? Are you going somewhere with her?
Going back home, man.
Picking her up from work or where was she?
A friend's house, man.
So she went to a friend's house. How'd she get there?
Her friend, man.
Okay. But then she needed a ride. So when she called you, you decided to go get her.
Yes, ma'am.
But you'd been by yourself drinking alcohol?
No, I wasn't by myself, man.
Who were you with?
I was at a restaurant.
So you were at a restaurant with other people that you know, like friends, or by yourself at the restaurant?
People that I know, man.
But your fiance wasn't part of that gathering.
No, ma'am.
So what did you drink, Mr. De Jesus?
It was cognac, man.
So during the course of the time that you're visiting with this group of friends, how many people are we talking about? 2 people, 5 people, 15 people?
I want to say around 4 or 5, man.
4 or 5, and you knew them all.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you're drinking the cognac, is that like you drink it out of a glass like people drink wine?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a meal at that restaurant?
Um, they had like a, I want to say appetizer, but I didn't have a
Yeah.
meal.
Okay. And when you got the call to go pick up your fiance, was that the plan all along that she would call you for you to go get her that night?
No, ma'am.
So it was kind of unusual that she would have called like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever think about maybe you shouldn't be driving because of what you drank with everybody else at the restaurant?
Yes, ma'am.
When you thought about it, how did you deal with that? Did you talk to other people or did you just keep it to yourself?
I kept it to myself, ma'am.
And then you just thought, I'm good enough to go get her.
Yes, ma'am.
When you're en route, do you actually get to get her or do you get stopped by the police before that?
No, I parked and got off the car, ma'am.
So when you parked and got out of the car, what were you doing at that point?
I seen the officers and I approached them to talk to them.
So you pull over, but you're not yet to your fiance's where she's at her friends. You're not there yet, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You pull over into some parking lot or to some off-road area?
On
and
the
then you get
street,
out of
ma'am.
Just on the street?
Yes.
Yeah. Who's with you there?
I was by myself in the
Okay,
car.
but right now, who's with you that's talking to you at your place right now? The people I can see, your friend.
My fiance.
That's your fiance? So
Yes.
she was just helping a little bit, and that's fine. I know it's difficult. So you pull off onto the street because you see the police that night,
Yes.
and you decide you're going to just go out and talk to them.
Yes.
So when you're talking to them, they ask who you are, ask for your driver's license, ask if you've been drinking. They ask you to do some tests right there on the side of the road,
Yes, ma'am.
like a breathalyzer, but you didn't want to take one because you were worried.
It
What was
must have
going
been a
through your mind?
misunderstanding, ma'am, because I
Yeah?
did my test. I don't remember
Uh-huh.
refusing any.
Okay. When you got to the jail, did you actually go to the jail?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you take a breathalyzer there or did they stick a needle in your arm?
I took a breathalyzer, ma'am.
And do you remember what the result was, Mr. De Jesus?
I believe it was 1 point something, ma'am. Not sure.
Yeah, the ones I showed were .13 and .14. which means that they're
Yes.
both over the legal limit? They're too high? Did the police let you call your fiancée so she knew you weren't getting there?
Yes, ma'am.
So
They
you
were
were able to
very
get
good.
word? That's nice. Because if I was her, and she can talk herself, but I would have been worried, like if you didn't show up and you never came and she didn't know where you were, that would be worrisome.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you're down at the jail. Do they leave your car right there, that Infinity? Do they leave it right there on the side of the road where you were, or the street?
Yes, ma'am.
That probably saved you $300 to $400, to be honest with you. By the time they impound it and cart it away and then store it and then you get it the next day or whatever, that costs money, to you. Do
Yes,
you
they were
guys have
very
kids?
nice.
Yeah.
Excuse,
Do you
excuse
guys
me?
have kids? Do you guys
Yes,
have
ma'am.
kids? How
Yes.
many do you guys have?
5.
So the 5 kids are ages what to what? Just ballpark.
10 to 17.
Yeah. So try to picture, Mr. De Jesus, and your fiance can relate to this too, because in a split second, in fact, I had a fatal car accident case this morning that I was dealing with the people. It didn't happen this morning. We had the case in court this morning, but the fatal happened in, I think, March. But my point to you is, in a split second, even when you never mean anything bad to happen, and I get that, it still can be horrific. It still can be disastrous. And even picture if you did pick up your fiance, the mother of those 5 kids, and just picture that you guys got in a car accident. God, what are we supposed to tell the kids? Like, really, what if you're both killed, if one of you is killed, whatever, it's just horrific to even think about it. But when you're driving, when you think you're okay, and wait till your 17-year-old starts drinking, if they haven't already, and they're with their friends, and they don't want to tell mom and dad, so they're just off, and they'll get in the car and drive. You don't want to have it happen. I'm telling you, I've seen families out here that have lost a loved one, and it is horrific. And it's something you got to be smart enough about to not let yourself get in this again. You don't want to have this happen. It isn't worth it. It isn't worth it. Sometimes I use an example of one of the little kids when they were littler, not the 10-year-old, because that's pretty big already in 4th grade. But if when those kids were little, and you guys remember when they were little, you would never leave them by themselves at a pool. We don't know for sure they're going to fall in the pool, but we're never going to leave them unattended by the pool. Because what could happen? That's how I think of it with you driving when you're .14. It isn't worth it. It doesn't mean you're trying to be a bad person or commit a criminal offense. It doesn't mean you're trying to hurt anyone. But it's like leaving a 2-year-old around a swimming pool by themselves. You'd never do it. And here, you should be thinking like that. I don't want to be drinking and driving the car. And really with your fiance, and I'm not saying, ma'am, that you ever did this, but I'm just saying if you ever are drinking with your friends, you should be making the same decision.
Yes.
Because it is not worth it. It is not worth it to get yourselves into a predicament where you're putting other people's lives at risk, including your own.
Agreed.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Mr. De Jesus, I'm accepting your plea of guilty. I want to ask Mr. Abuxia, whether you believe the court has complied with the court rule in terms of the taking of the plea.
I do, Your Honor.
What would you like to say, Mr. Abuxia, with your contact with Mr. De Jesus?
Your Honor, just that he's taken responsibility for this right off the bat. He knows that he shouldn't have been driving that day. I think he's had a lot of time to think about what happened on that night. Surely this case hasn't been dragging on for months and months, but you can tell that this is something that he has been thinking about and is not something that he's taken lightly. And so I don't believe any jail time is going to help Mr. De Jesus in the future. I do believe that possible counseling might be of benefit, certainly a short term of probation if the court sees fit, Your Honor.
All right, I appreciate it. Mr. De Jesus, can you think of anything that you want to say?
I just, it was a learning experience for me, and you're absolutely right. other people could have gotten hurt or myself,
Uh-huh.
and it was very irresponsible. And it's been hard on me, but I'll get through this, and it will not happen again, Your Honor.
All right, I appreciate it, Mr. DeJesus, and I'm not trying to be funny, but a lot of people do say that to me. I've been a judge 30 years, and I do have a lot of people that say, they'll never be back, you won't see me here again, I'll never do this again. And I get it, and when they're saying it to me, I mean, really, mostly they're very genuine about it. They mean it, just like you mean it right now. I get it. But you have to live it.
Yeah.
It's not
Yes.
just about right now and being on probation with us. You got to make sure you really turn this negative into a positive and into a learning experience, like you say. And I don't want to tell you guys how to be parents, because I'm sure you're great parents, but you ought to sit down with those kids,
Yes.
because
Yes.
10 years old to 17, it's the perfect age for all of them to hear what occurred and be honest.
Yes.
They love you. They love you. Regardless, but you can actually teach them from your own poor decisions on what happened that night. This does
Yes.
not make you a bad dad. This does not make you a bad person, but 10 years old is fourth grade, and they are smart little people. And we ought to just be able to sit down and be honest with them. So I'm suggesting at some point, I don't know if you do it all together or
Yes.
you do it separately by age, but you really ought to talk to them about it.
We have,
give
Your
you-
Honor,
That's good. That's good. That shows a lot of courage.
and we have not drank since.
Yeah, that's good too. I'm going to order you not to drink, because I just think it's a smarter way to handle this while you're going through the probation. Probation will be a year. I don't put you in jail, but if you mess up, then I would, Mr. DeJesus. It's a 93-day suspended jail sentence where 92 days are suspended, 1-day credit. I'm not going to give you community service. I'd rather you just focus on getting your family situated so you guys are back to being as stable as you can be. And it's on you, Mr. DeJesus, because this is about you. I'm sure everybody feels a bit punished by this, but it's on you. The 1 year of probation is to make sure you're staying clean and following the rules. No alcohol, no illegal drugs, no misuse of prescription medication, no marijuana. They'll have you testing randomly, and they'll ask you to be involved in some counseling. It's like entry-level counseling that's meant to be helpful. It's not meant to be punishment. If I wanted to punish you, I'd say, go pick up trash on the highway for 40 hours. I'm not doing that. I'm saying get your head on straight and do the right thing. You're responsible for 5 kids. That's huge. Biggest job you'll ever have. I give you $560 in fines. $360 is the probation fee, which is $30 a month times 12. $75 crime victims' right fee. $175 is the Kent County Sheriff's Department reimbursement fee, and $200 is the court-appointed attorney. It's a lot. There's no question it's a lot of money. $1,370. We'll work out a payment plan and give you time to pay it off. The Secretary of State will be contacting you about your license, telling you how long you're going to be without it. Is the Burgess
Yes,
where you
ma'am.
get your mail? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Most of the time, the Secretary of State just restricts your license and makes you like not drive all the time. They let you drive to work. They let you drive to the doctor. They let you drive to probation if you had a meeting. Just talk with your probation officer about exactly what's going on with that so you don't mess up.
Okay.
The bond money you posted will be applied.
Thank you.
So then they'll take that off the amount and tell you what the balance is, okay?
Thank you. Yes.
All right, Mr. DeJesus, just be smarter. You're already smart. I'm asking you to be smarter than you were that day back in July.
Thank you.
All right. Do well with your family. Thank you for your courtesy.
Thank you.
All right.
God bless.
Okay, you bet. Thank you. All right, you can disconnect. Mr. Abuxia, we have
Mr. Cano.
Mr. Herrera Cano.
I'm coming right now.
Okay. Mr. Bello, I'll put you under oath and we'll get you started so when they come in, we'll be ready.
Okay.
Raising your right hand, you do solemnly swear you'll interpret from English to Spanish and Spanish to English to the best of your ability?
Yes, I do.
This is Senor Herrero Cano in the courtroom.
Okay.
And tell him that you're going to be interpreting for him. I think he's here with a family member.
Señor Herrera Cano.
Yeah. He can hear
Yo soy
you.
el intérprete.
Tell him that his defense attorney is going to come in. And I'm
Tu
going to let them
abogado
talk.
defensor ya viene.
Uh-huh. And I'm going to let them talk in here and I'll leave so you guys can use the interpreter. Yeah?
Dice que el abogado defensor va a hablar con usted primero.
You can introduce him to Senor Abuxia. Malud
señor-
Abuxia.
El señor Buxia es su abogado, señor.
Yeah. You guys can just sit at the tables and I think you'll be able to hear them okay.
Yeah.
It should be pretty brief, Your Honor. I have had